When ancient humans hunted a monster bigger than an elephant, imagine standing on an open plain with nothing but a wooden spear in your hands. The wind cuts through your animal hide clothing. The ground is frozen beneath your feet. Somewhere beyond the ridge, the earth begins to tremble. At first, you hear only a low rumble. Then the giant appears. It is taller than any person in your group. Its shoulders rise like a moving hill. Long curved tusks sweep forward from its skull, each one capable of crushing ribs or throwing a hunter through the air. Thick hair hangs from its body in frozen ropes. Every breath erupts from its trunk like smoke. This is not an elephant. It is a woolly mammoth, one of the most powerful animals of the Ice Age. And your family is starving. For ancient humans, hunting such a creature was not an act of sport. It was a decision made at the edge of survival. One mammoth could provide an enormous amount of meat, fat, bone, hide, and sinew. It could feed a group for weeks, perhaps longer. Its bones could become tools or supports for shelters. Its hide could block the winter wind. Its fat could mean the difference between life and death. But approaching a mammoth meant facing an animal that could kill a human in seconds. So how did our ancestors hunt a monster bigger than an elephant? The answer was not brute strength. It was planning, cooperation, patience, and the dangerous intelligence that would eventually make humans the most powerful hunters on Earth. Our story begins tens of thousands of years ago during the last ice age. Much of northern Eurasia was covered by a vast environment known as the Mammoth Steppe. It was cold, dry, and open, stretching across enormous distances. Grasses and hardy plants fed huge herds of grazing animals, reindeer, wild horses, bison, woolly rhinoceroses, and mammoths. Human groups moved through this world in small communities. They carried everything they needed: stone blades, wooden shafts, fire-making materials, scrapers for hides, food when they had it. They had no metal weapons, no vehicles, no walls to hide behind. Yet they were not helpless. They understood the land in a way modern people rarely do. They could read footprints pressed into mud or snow. They noticed broken branches, fresh dung strands of hair caught on shrubs, and distant movements among birds. A skilled tracker could estimate how many animals had passed, how recently they had been there, and which direction they were moving. A mammoth hunt may have begun days before anyone raised a spear. The hunters first had to find the herd. Mammoths were social animals. Females and young likely traveled in family groups, while adult males may have spent more time alone or at the edge of herds. Attacking a healthy herd in open ground would have been nearly suicidal. A threatened adult could charge. Others might surround the young. The hunters could be trampled before they came close enough to strike. So ancient people looked for an advantage. Perhaps an old mammoth was falling behind. Perhaps a young animal had become separated. Perhaps one member of the herd was injured, exhausted, or trapped by difficult terrain. Humans did not need to defeat the strongest mammoth. They needed to isolate the most vulnerable one. Picture a hunting group gathered around a small fire before dawn. They speak quietly. Some sharpen stone points. Others check spear shafts for cracks. The oldest hunters draw lines in the dirt marking a river bank, a steep slope, a patch of soft ground, or a narrow passage between rocks. Every person must understand the plan. A mammoth is too large for one hunter to stop. Even a perfectly thrown spear may not penetrate deeply enough to reach a vital organ. The animal's thick skin, fat, muscle, and hair form a powerful defense. The hunters need the landscape to fight with them. For decades, Popular stories imagine ancient humans driving mammoths over cliffs. This may have happened in some situations, but the full reality was probably more varied. Hunters could have used steep banks, marshy ground, narrow valleys, river crossings, snow, or natural traps. They may also have attacked animals already weakened by age, injury, hunger, or environmental stress. The goal was not always to kill instantly. The goal was to control movement. At sunrise, the hunters spread across the plain. Some approach from behind, shouting and waving burning branches. Others move along the sides, careful not to get too close. Smoke drifts across the wind. The herd becomes restless. The mammoths bunch together. A calf calls out. An adult swings its trunk and turns toward the noise. Then the humans begin to push, not with their bodies, but with fear. They create pressure from several directions while leaving one route open, the route they want the animals to take. This is one of humanity's oldest weapons, understanding how another creature will react. The herd moves toward lower ground. The earth there looks solid, but beneath the grass lies wet soil softened by melting ice. Most of the herd crosses quickly. One animal, slower than the rest, sinks deeper. Its front foot plunges into the mud. It pulls free, but the effort costs energy. The humans focus on it. The mammoth turns. Now the hunt becomes chaos. The animal charges toward the nearest figure. The hunter runs not in a straight line, but across uneven ground where the giant must slow down. A second hunter strikes from the side, driving a spear toward the ribs. The point enters, but not far enough. The mammoth screams. The sound is enormous, part roar and part trumpet, powerful enough to freeze every person for a heartbeat. Then the tusks sweep sideways. One hunter throws himself backward. The curved ivory passes close enough to tear his clothing. Another person is knocked to the ground by the mammoth's shoulder. There is no time to check whether he is alive. The group attacks again. Some spears are thrown. Others may be thrust at close range. Hunters aim for vulnerable places behind the shoulder, the belly, the throat, or the legs. These targets are difficult to reach, especially while the animal is moving. The mammoth fights to escape the soft ground. Its feet tear deep holes into the earth. Mud covers its hair. Blood darkens one side of its body, but it is still stronger than every human around it combined. This is where cooperation matters. One hunter alone would be dead. A group can rotate attackers. While some distract the animal, others strike. When one person retreats, another advances. They watch one another, shouting warnings. The mammoth cannot focus on every threat at once. Hours may pass. This is not the clean, dramatic kill shown in adventure stories. It is exhausting, frightening, and dangerous. The animal weakens slowly. Blood loss, stress, and repeated wounds drain its strength. Each charge becomes shorter. Each movement becomes heavier. The hunters are also tiring. Their hands shake. Their mouths are dry. Every spear that breaks reduces their chances. If darkness arrives before the mammoth falls, the hunt may fail. Worse predators may already be watching. Wolves could follow the smell of blood. Cave lions might remain hidden at the edge of the plain. Humans were hunters, but they were also competitors in a world filled with other carnivores. Finally, the mammoth collapses onto one knee. The hunters hesitate. A wounded giant can still kill. One person moves behind the animal, while another approaches the front, forcing it to turn its head. A final spear is driven deep into a vulnerable area. The mammoth shudders, then it falls. For several seconds, no one celebrates. They wait. The wind moves through the grass. Steam rises from the animal's body. A hunter touches its side with the tip of a spear. There is no response. Only then does the group understand what they have done. They have brought down one of the largest animals in their world. But the hunt is not over. A mammoth carcass is an enormous resource, and processing it requires skill, speed, and organization. The people must work before the meat spoils or predators arrive. Stone flakes slice through hide. Heavy tools separate joints. Tendons are cut and saved. Fat is collected carefully because in cold environments, calories from fat are especially valuable. Lean meat alone may not provide enough energy for survival. Every useful part matters. The hide can become coverings, bedding containers, or shelter material. Sinew can bind tools and weapons. Bones can become supports, handles, points, or fuel in places where wood is scarce. Tusks can be shaped into tools, ornaments, and carefully crafted objects. Even the location of the kill may become a temporary camp. Fires burn through the night. Meat is roasted, dried, smoked, frozen, or transported. Children and older members of the group may join the work. The success belongs not only to the hunters, but to the entire community. And yet victory has a cost. Someone may be injured. A hunter struck during the charge may never walk properly again. Another may carry a deep wound that becomes infected. Ancient people had knowledge of plants, bandaging, and care, but even a small injury could become deadly. This is why mammoth hunting was never simply a test of courage. It was a calculation. Was the animal vulnerable enough? Was the terrain favorable? Did the group have enough people? Were they hungry enough to accept the risk? Archaeological sites show that ancient humans did interact with mammoths in complex ways. At some locations, mammoth bones appear alongside stone tools and signs of butchery. In other cases, people may have scavenged animals that died naturally. Not every pile of mammoth bones proves a dramatic hunt, but some evidence strongly suggests that humans were capable of killing large proboscideans. And they did not do it because they were physically superior. They did it because human beings could share information, coordinate roles, create specialized tools, remember landscapes, and pass knowledge from one generation to the next. A young hunter who survived one mammoth encounter could become the experienced guide of the next. He could remember where the ground became soft in spring, how the herd reacted to smoke, where to stand during a charge, and which wounds were most effective. That knowledge could be taught, and taught again. Over centuries, small improvements accumulated. Spears became better balanced. Stone points became sharper. Hunting strategies became more refined. Groups learned when to pursue, when to wait, and when to abandon a dangerous attack. This ability to build upon the experience of others may have been more important than any single weapon. The mammoth had strength. Humans had collective memory. The mammoth had tusks. Humans had plans. The mammoth was larger than an elephant, wrapped in muscle hair and fat, adapted to survive one of the harshest climates on Earth. But humans could imagine a future event before it happened. They could stand on a ridge, study the land below, and transform a riverbank, a patch of mud, or a narrow valley into part of a weapon. That was the real turning point. When ancient humans hunted giants, they were not merely searching for food. They were demonstrating a new kind of power, the power of many minds working as one. Eventually, the Ice Age ended. The climate changed. Grasslands shifted. Mammoth populations declined. Human hunting may have added pressure in some regions, while environmental change transformed the habitats these animals depended on. The exact balance remains debated, and it likely differed from place to place. But the mammoths disappeared from most of the world. Humans remained. Today, mammoth bones still emerge from frozen ground caves, riverbanks, and ancient camps. Their tusks carry growth lines from lives lived thousands of years ago. Cut marks on bone preserve moments when stone met flesh. Broken points and scattered tools reveal where people once gathered around a fallen giant. These remains tell us something uncomfortable and extraordinary about our ancestors. They were fragile creatures in a world of monsters. They had thin skin, small teeth, no claws, and bodies that could be crushed in an instant. Yet they learned to hunt animals that outweighed them dozens of times over, not because they were fearless, but because fear could be shared, risk could be planned, knowledge could survive the death of the individual. And when the ground began to shake beneath the feet of an Ice Age hunter, he did not face the giant alone. Behind him stood the entire group. Behind them stood generations of experience, and in their hands was the weapon that no mammoth could understand: the human mind.